Good evening and welcome to the BizNews Briefing. Today is the 11th of February 2026. I'm Patrick Kidd. On tonight's show, we cover South Africa's response to the foot and mouth epidemic, concerns over proposed firearms law changes, a US jury trial over claims social platforms were designed to addict teens, and a wealth-building view on AfriMat. In our top story tonight, SAAI Chair Dr. Theo de Jager sat down with BizNews editor Alec Hogg to discuss the ongoing foot and mouth standoff. You can watch that full interview on BizNews TV tonight at 8:30 p.m.
If it was my job to manage this disease, I would have fired at least 12 of them in senior positions, replaced them with people with a proven experience and expertise, because we believe the state senior government officials are squarely in the way of us beating this disease.
Through incompetence or through malign intent?
Both. The director of animal health said to a group of veterinarians, "Don't put the pressure on me. You know, I do not have cattle myself." But even the minister, the farmers will not forgive Minister Steenhuisen for saying, well, if they take me to court, they will wait a month longer for their vaccines to get to their farms. Farmers feel he simply does not understand how serious this is. And we are not taking to court to frustrate him. We asked the minister in a letter, what in law gives you the foundation for your decision that farmers are not allowed to vaccinate their own animals? What in the law or the regulations? And he chose not to answer. And it is now 2 weeks later. And we said, should he ignore us? Because we can't find anything in law. We will have to ask a court what in law prevents us. But it has since transpired from the World Organization for Animal Health, from Dr. Bruckner himself, from so many lawyers and institutes who said there is nothing in law preventing us. The Brazilians did that. We have now already done it last year. There's absolutely no reason.
In an interview with BizNews journalist Chris Steyn this morning, Safe Citizen founder Jonathan Deal shared his concerns over the proposed Firearms Control Amendment Bill.
Why do you think the ANC is still able to float legislation that so many people deem counterproductive or illogical or irrational?
I think simply because they have really had no material opposition in legislative terms. And if you look at the way that they are managing our country, the travesties of justice that occur in many fields and endeavors around South Africa, many government areas, it is just not a surprise that they are able to do this. So literally, one could say, certainly from my point of view, and I'm not a legal or political expert, but if I was asked, I think I would say that the African National Congress owns the South African police. The South African police takes instructions from and they report to the ANC. So out of the National Executive Council of the ANC would probably come an instruction to the Minister of Police: you will bring back the 2021 Firearms Control Amendment Bill, which was roundly and soundly rejected by the public in 2021, and you will reintroduce it. And that instruction gets passed to the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services, who are tasked with, amongst other things, looking after developing legislation in the safety and security cluster, who then, in their wisdom, decided to involve a trade organization called NEDLAC, who involved another trade organization called BUSA, two trade organizations that deal with issues and matters of commerce and industry, and briefed them on behalf of this nation and its citizens to discuss the Firearms Control Amendment Bill. And I think quite simply, until the ANC is unseated and until they have their influence within and over the police of South Africa interrupted and halted, they will continue to be able to float legislation like this.
Now to the US, where a landmark trial is testing claims that social media platforms were built to get teens addicted. Our partners at Bloomberg look at the legal questions at the center of the case.
Eric, as I mentioned, it's Meta, it's Google, it's also Snap and TikTok facing legal focus throughout the year, correct?
Yeah, there's a trial taking place right now in Los Angeles, putting all four of them on trial. There's also a federal case that's putting them on trial in June. And there are lawsuits against all of them throughout the country in parallel with that.
The argument at its core from some of these so-called victims are that these tools and these platforms were designed to hook teens, young brains in particular, and keep them coming back for more. Eric, is that the understanding you have? What legal credence, what fight do they have to fight here?
So the basic argument for the plaintiffs is, as you described, that the sites were designed to intentionally addict users and that the services are therefore liable for the harms that resulted from that addiction. There's a lot of questions about that. For example, we have to ask, what does it even mean to be, quote, addicted to a social media service? There aren't medical or psychological definitions of that. We also have to talk about whether or not the services caused the harms that the victims have suffered. There are many causes of harms in people's lives. And so isolating that causation is going to be tricky for the plaintiffs as well. There are a lot of problems in our society, a lot of problems plaguing kids. And there are also problems of over-responding to the content online that looks a lot like censorship. And so when we talk about solutions, we can't do that without talking about the problems. Having said that, I think that we're going to see a battle of experts in these trials where both sides are going to bring in the best and brightest minds to tell their case to the jury. We're going to hear from average Americans, essentially plucked off the streets, who are going to weigh that evidence and try and tell us whether or not they think there's a problem here that needs to be addressed.
Robertson, a small town in the middle of nowhere where a wine farmer claims to have sold a Volkswagen up to We Buy Cars. A farmer. What car did you really sell them?
A VW up.
Right here in Robertson.
Small town, but we know about We Buy Cars.
Yeah, but what's a farmer doing with a VW up?
It was just a runaround.
Cool cover story. And I see you traded it in for this, like a double cab Renault. Well, were they all out of ranges?
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
And mining guru Peter Major gives us our wealth building tip of the day. In conversation with Alec Hogg, he took a close look at AfriMat, a JSE-listed mining and materials group.
AfriMat is a stock that we do have in the BizNews portfolio. We really like the managers. We like the bet they've taken on cement. At some point in time, South Africa's got to kick in with its infrastructure program. And you've pointed out as well that this is a stock that you also like.
Yeah, I do. Same reasons you've mentioned. It started out as a very average business, but attention to detail, great cost control, great management. Talk about micromanagement. This company exhibited it, and they took a quarrying aggregate business to about as high a level as you could throughout the country. But they've used that format, their template, to go into mining. And yes, you start out bulk mining because that's what the aggregate business is. And we thought they were doing everything right. But if you look at the common denominator that's knocked this share down, it was all logistics based. It was bulk. So it was iron ore, it was manganese, it was coal. And unfortunately, our infrastructure has worked against the firm because it battled to get rail capacity of the iron ore and the manganese. It battled to get prices when the prices of iron ore were doing good and they were selling to ISCOR and they were exporting, then everything was running. All the boxes were being ticked. But when ISCOR goes into massive reduction mode and they lose the contract to Discor, and they Transnet's in meltdown mode. In the little bit of transport they had that was getting to the harbor, now that transport was stalled, the harbor was stalled, the coal price goes down, they still don't have a water use license on a very important anthracite mine that they wanted to start mining on. Yeah, a lot of things just kind of went against them, did go against them, but they're all temporary. All those can be fixed. So the company's working on fixing them. They will get them right. And you don't need 4 out of 4 to be running. You get 2 out of 4, this share is going to go up another 30, 40%, I believe. So, yeah, it's one for the portfolio.
That's been tonight's BizNews Briefing. I'm Patrick Kidd for BizNews.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.